Important update about YouTube playlists. Hey everyone. We've received many messages asking why our YouTube playlists aren't showing up. Do we create YouTube playlists? Yes, we absolutely do. So why can't you see them? Honestly, we're not sure. We've been in contact with YouTube support for several months now, but we still haven't received a clear answer or solution. After much discussion, our team has decided to take matters into our own hands. We believe the issue might be related to the number of playlists we've created on a single channel, possibly too many. Our solution? We're launching 2 additional YouTube channels, giving us a total of 3. This way, we can organize our audiobooks better and avoid the playlist visibility issue in the future. This change only affects our YouTube audience. If you're a patron supporter, you can still access all our audiobooks by visiting the collection menu on Patreon. Thanks so much for your time and continued support. Happy listening. Chapter 285, The Ruined Greenhouse. The greenhouse resembled a yurt in shape. And it was as large as 3 basketball courts combined. At its 4 cardinal directions stood 4 smaller square buildings. These structures were about half the size of a basketball court each. Transparent corridors connected them to the central greenhouse. As Chizhao approached, he noticed 2/3 of the glass dome roof had already shattered. Under the bloody moonlight, the place appeared utterly desolate and ruined. Following Lao Yu, Chizhao crawled through a broken section into the massive central greenhouse. Only after entering did he realize this 3 basketball court-sized structure was actually a flower room. But with the dome destroyed, nearly all the flowers inside had withered. Only dried stems and blackened or yellowed dead blossoms remained. The cracked, pale soil showed severe lack of water and nutrients. Just then, a gaunt-looking bee listlessly flew past Chizhao's face. It wobbled through the air like an exhausted student or office worker forced into early morning routines, seemingly about to collapse any second. Sure enough, the bee barely made it 5 meters before crashing to the ground, unconscious. Chizhao crouched down and picked it up. This bee closely resembled the photosynthesis serum Lao Yu had brought back, just a smaller version. During their journey here, Lao Yu had briefed Chizhao about the situation. These bees were among the workers that produced the photosynthesis serum. Frowning, Chizhao scanned the surroundings. With his fate insight ability, he detected several more bees nearby. But like the one in his hand, they all teetered unsteadily, on the verge of collapse. Chizhao sighed. This greenhouse seemed on the verge of total failure. He stood up and followed Lao Yu deeper inside. Passing through the glass corridor connecting the flower room to the western building, they pushed open a door. This was the laboratory where Lao Yu had found the photosynthesis serum. Upon entering, 5 or 6 researchers in white coats immediately caught Chizhao's attention. They paced about busily. Had Chizhao not seen the records and received Lao Yu's warning beforehand, he might have mistaken them for real researchers. These pacing figures were actually eerie plants called humanoid trees. Humanoid trees possessed human-like proportions. Their white coats were actually leaves that adapted to mimic appropriate attire for different environments, white for laboratories, gray-blue for wilderness, etc. These trees had heads but no faces. One should never deliberately look at where their faces should be, doing so would provoke them. They would grow saw-toothed vines to literally peel off the offender's face and attach it to themselves. Fortunately, having injected the photosynthesis serum, Chizhao could now look at them freely. That one humanoid tree already had a face attached. Judging by its freshness, the victim must have been killed within the last couple days. Some poor unfortunate soul. Passing through the area guarded by the humanoid trees, Chizhao reached the core section where Tiding stood watch. 3 pieces of equipment stood here, the photosynthesis serum generators. These were the marvelous machines that produced the serum. They themselves were wonders to behold, hybrid creations combining machinery, flesh, and plant matter. Each had touchscreen displays, tentacle-like sensors, and broad leaves with vein patterns resembling human blood vessels. Their power source extended underground as thick roots, each the size of a grown man's forearm. The other 3 labs each had 3 serum generators too, Tiding explained, having clearly investigated thoroughly. But all were destroyed. This is the last functional one. And that single dose you brought back was the only remaining serum. After Tiding's brief explanation, Chizhao understood the situation. This facility consisted of a massive central flower room and 4 laboratories. The greenhouse dome had been damaged, and only 1 serum generator remained operational. The photosynthesis serum Lao Yu retrieved was literally the last one left. This probably wasn't a looping station. Even if it was, the cycle must be extremely long given the advanced state of decay. The extensive damage suggested previous visitors had fought over the serum, accidentally destroying the generators in the process. Chizhao nodded and approached the sole functioning generator, its screen still glowing. Running his hand over it, he marveled inwardly, what kind of creation was this? Part machine, part organism, part plant? Just by extending roots underground, it could power itself? Titan continued his report. The display shows 3 ingredients are required to produce the serum. First, blood from humans or animals. Second, distilled water. Third, flower nectar. Following Titan's pointing finger, Chizhao saw 3 energy bars colored red, blue and yellow respectively. The red and blue bars were full at 100% capacity. Only the yellow bottom bar showed 0%. The humanoid trees capture creatures and supply the blood, Titan explained. The generator's large leaves automatically produce distilled water. But with the flower room destroyed and most blossoms dead, the bees can't collect nectar, hence the empty yellow bar. Chizhao nodded in understanding. Currently, they just needed to fill that yellow bar to start production. Flower nectar. Where could they get that? Returning to the flower room's deathly stillness, Chizhao shook his head. His vitality boost could accelerate plant growth, but couldn't revive already dead flowers. But flowers. He happened to have some. From his realm bracelet, Chizhao produced the wine pouch flowers and placed them on the ground. Rich floral and alcoholic aromas immediately filled the air. Soon, a bee caught the scent and drunkenly stumbled over. It clung to a blossom, greedily sucking nectar with its rear end raised. Then came a second bee, a third, a fourth. All nearby bees swarmed to the wine pouch flowers. As the bees fed, the serum generator's yellow energy bar slowly climbed to 1%. So as long as the bees carried nectar, the energy would increase. Chizhao nodded. But this was far too slow. Not enough flowers, nowhere near enough. Chapter 286, Producing Serum, Ice Crystal Frozen Pears. He immediately flew out of the greenhouse and placed the train on the ground. Then, together with Lao Yu, they purchased a large variety of different flowers and transplanted them into both the greenhouse and the cultivation train cars. In no time, all 3 cultivation cars and the greenhouse were filled with flowers. The bees that had been starving for a long time swarmed in towards this sudden feast. Buzz 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 buzz. 10, 50, 100. More and more bees kept coming. At the same time, the nectar energy value on the serum device was visibly increasing. After half an hour, the nectar energy value maxed out, and the photosynthetic serum device started working. 2.5 hours later, a fresh photosynthetic serum was produced. Chizhao took it out. It was still a bee-shaped injection. Excellent. With this, he could move freely for another 12 hours. Looking at the serum device that had started producing another photosynthetic serum, Chizhao sighed. If all 12 photosynthetic serum devices could work, he wouldn't mind wasting some time to repair this greenhouse. But currently, only one device was still operational. Even if he repaired this greenhouse, it could only produce 1 photosynthetic serum at a time. So Chizhao's plan was to accumulate 3 photosynthetic serums, then go search for other greenhouses. Ideally, he would find a greenhouse with more intact photosynthetic serum devices. That way, even if the greenhouse was damaged, it would be worth repairing. While waiting for the serum production, Chizhao wasn't idle either. He took Lao Yu with him to search for special plants nearby. Titan remained guarding the area, watching over both the equipment and the train. After leaving the laboratory, Chizhao took out a pair of glasses and tossed them to Lao Yu. The lenses were green. Everything's so red here, it's giving me a headache. Try these, see if they help. Chizhao put on a pair himself. He had thought of this while buying flowers earlier. So he bought 2. Lao Yu put on the green-lensed sunglasses and adjusted the frame. Captain, it does seem more comfortable to look at things now. Right? They're somewhat helpful at least. Chizhao adjusted his glasses and looked up at the red moon in the sky. It's not full anymore? The moon was changing. After the full moon, the western side began to wane. This phase is called the waning gibbous moon. This meant the blood moon period was receding. Though the speed of this transition, that remained to be seen. It might take half a month to completely return to a normal moon for all we know. Chizhao shook his head. Now that he had the photosynthetic serum, he wasn't worried about the blood moon's effects. The problem was, this world was too red, and he just couldn't get used to it. It was hurting his eyes. Even with their green-tinted glasses, their eyes still felt uncomfortable. Especially when Chizhao activated Fate Insight, then everything turned completely red. Using it too long would make him dizzy. But not using it meant he might miss things invisible to the naked eye. So Chizhao had to endure the headache and eye pain, forcing himself to keep Fate Insight active. And sure enough, this helped him discover something small. In a depression on the ground grew an inconspicuous green plant. Pain-blocking mint. Chewing its leaves could block pain and grant berserker strength, with doubled pain returning after the effect wore off. This plant didn't require any special harvesting method, but it had a hidden effect. If used 3 times consecutively within a short period, the user would permanently lose their sense of pain. Good, This pain-blocking mint was growing well, already with 8 leaves. Qizhao directly stored it in his realm bracelet to transplant into his train later. The two flew out of the depression and continued exploring the surrounding area. Suddenly, Lao Yu felt a chill and stopped. Then he turned toward the source of the coldness, his eyes lighting up. He pointed excitedly and called out, "Captain, look over there." Qizhao looked where Lao Yu was pointing, but couldn't see anything. He extended Fate Insight to 100 meters before sensing what Lao Yu had noticed. There was actually an ice crystal frozen pear tree here. The pear tree floated midair, looking like an ice sculpture. From roots to trunk to leaves, everything was translucent light ice blue. From a distance, it was almost invisible. No wonder Qizhao couldn't see it with his naked eyes. Plus, wearing his silver combat suit that maintained constant temperature and humidity, he hadn't felt the cold. If not for Lao Yu, they would have missed this tree entirely. The two changed direction and flew toward the pear tree. The closer they got, the colder the surroundings became. Lao Yu ate a flame cashew to temporarily resist the low temperature. The ice crystal frozen pear tree was breathtakingly beautiful. The winter jujube-sized fruits hanging from its branches were called ice crystal frozen pears. Sweet and sour with refreshing juice. The key was their constant temperature property. They maintained -5 degrees Celsius in any environment. This tree bore over 100 ice crystal frozen pears of various sizes. From afar, they looked like gemstone pendants on an extravagant crystal chandelier. Though currently the pears weren't fully grown, mature ice crystal frozen pears would reach the size of an adult's fist. And inside would form blue crystal cores. The mature frozen pears, if picked recklessly, would simply dissipate into ice crystals in the air. Mature ice crystal frozen pears would never rot after being picked. Never rotting, plus constant temperature, what did this mean? With enough quantity, one could even create an ice kingdom. Want a pear? Huh? Qizhao aimed his palm at one of the frozen pears, emitting a faint green light. Vitality overflow. The frozen pear visibly grew before their eyes. Soon, an ice crystal frozen pear with a blue core inside had matured. Qizhao rubbed his head, it ached slightly. Who knew just forcing one pear to mature would consume so much mental energy? After catching his breath, he plucked it. The -5 degrees Celsius pear was freezing to touch. Here, try it, see how it tastes. Lao Yu caught the pear Qizhao tossed over, holding it with both hands happily. Thank you, Captain. Wow, so cold, so sweet. Captain, you try it too, it's super delicious. Qizhao took the pear that Lao Yu had taken a bite from and bit into it himself. Indeed sweet. But a fresh, non-cloying sweetness. The texture was like eating fine shaved ice, not hard at all. Looks like they'd have to take this tree. Though they'd need to figure out how to transplant it into the train later. Qizhao placed his hand on the ice crystal frozen pear tree, preparing to store it in his realm bracelet. Yikes! So cold. The ice crystal frozen pear tree didn't need to be planted in soil, as long as the surrounding temperature stayed below -30 degrees Celsius, it could grow suspended in air. Come to think of it, this wasn't an icy mountain, nor was the ground frozen soil. How could an ice crystal frozen pear grow here? Wait, something's not right. Chapter 287, A Talking Female Toad. Stop right there. A woman's voice suddenly rang in Qizhao's ears. Then, a figure abruptly appeared beside Qizhao. Her delicate finger pointed accusingly at Qizhao as she shouted, "Get your filthy hands off my pear tree." Qizhao took a closer look. The woman wore a white sundress with white open-toe stiletto sandals. Her jet-black hair cascaded smoothly past her shoulders. Strangely, her eyebrows and eyelashes were snow white. Yet paired with her ice blue eyes, it didn't seem unnatural. "What are you staring at? Remove your hands immediately." Wait, his fate perception hadn't detected any physical presence here. This was a projection? Indeed, upon closer inspection, the woman's figure wavered slightly, definitely not a physical form. "Listen carefully, don't even think about touching that tree. It belongs to me." "Seriously? Did your name get carved on it or something? You claim it's yours, so it's yours? As a living person, why should I fear a mere projection? Realm bracelet, store it." In the next instant, the beautiful ice crystal frozen pear tree vanished. Qizhao had successfully stored it in his realm bracelet. Thief. Following the woman's furious roar, anomalies erupted. The ground split open as a beam of white light shot upward. Then, heavy snow began falling from nowhere. Reacting swiftly, Qizhao grabbed Lao Yu's arm and retreated. But the snowfall's range expanded rapidly, forming a spherical snow dome encapsulating a 100-meter radius within seconds. They were trapped inside. The world's color palette shifted from red to white, momentarily disorienting them. Shielding Lao Yu behind him, Qizhao gulped down a basic healing potion. Merely touching the ice crystal frozen pear tree had frostbitten his palm. As the potion took effect, his injuries began healing. But Qi Zhao's frown deepened. His fate perception couldn't penetrate the snow dome. Not only that, the snowfall inside intensified. Snowflakes the size of soybeans pelted down. The temperature dropped rapidly as the blizzard worsened. Then, a palm-sized white toad came riding a cluster of floating snowflakes toward Qi Zhao. Thief! Return my tree. The toad actually stood upright like a human, hands on hips, shouting angrily, or you'll never leave this place. It was the same voice as the projected woman's. Lao Yu peeked from behind Qi Zhao, pointing excitedly at the toad. Holy shit, Captain. A talking toad. It's a monster. A toad demon. The toad seemed offended, remaining silent for several seconds. And it's a female toad. Hearing this, the toad finally snapped. You brat. Where are your manners? TCH. Figures, being raised by a thief. The toad pointed at Qi Zhao with its front limb like a human. A crooked stick will have a crooked shadow. Bang. An armor-piercing round blew through the toad's head. Qi Zhao lowered his ZZ pistol with disgust. Did I steal your rice or something? Quit yapping. A toad's a toad, yet you made such a pretty projection. Trying to become a real spirit or what? The headshot toad stiffly fell backward. Then sprang upright like a jack-in-a-box. Snowflakes patched up its blown-apart head perfectly. Even Qi Zhao raised an eyebrow at this. These snowflakes could heal injuries? Ribbit. Oh? So angry you stopped talking? Ribbit. 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 With 3 croaks, 3 basketball-sized snowballs materialized and launched at Qi Zhao. Command mantra, time 0. Pulling Lao Yu aside, Qi Zhao easily dodged the projectiles. Unrelenting, the toad opened its mouth wide, unleashing a freezing blast. Icicles instantly crystallized behind Qi Zhao, stabbing toward him. Captain. Lao Yu suddenly twisted his body, spreading his arms to block the icicles. The Kirin blood armor sensed danger and activated its protection. A faint blue barrier intercepted the icicles, shattering them on impact. Lao Yu emerged unscathed. Witnessing this, Qi Zhao felt reassured. The armor that could withstand his slashes definitely had maxed out defense. Blocking simple ice spikes was child's play. Qi Zhao immediately fired several incendiary rounds from his ZZ pistol at the toad. The flaming bullets streaked toward their target. Seeing its attack fail, the toad croaked repeatedly. Surrounding snowflakes swarmed like summon minions, forming massive floating snowballs. With a wave of its limb, the toad sent them crashing into the flaming bullets. Both attacks cancelled out in explosions of steam. The thick mist combined with the blizzard severely reduced visibility. Seizing the opportunity, Qi Zhao charged forward, a flaming sword suddenly in hand. Exhale. Inhale. Fiery red vapor trailed from Qi Zhao's mouth with each breath. Flame breathing. 5th form. Blazing tiger. Qi Zhao's lunge unleashed a tiger-shaped inferno of a slash. Simultaneously activating time 0 made his movement imperceptibly fast. Crash. The fiery slash cleaved through the snowstorm, striking the toad dead center. The scent of roasted meat immediately filled the air. Qi Zhao's strike had bisected and simultaneously cooked the toad. But the victory was short-lived. Snowflakes swarmed over it, reviving the creature again. However, having learned its lesson, the toad immediately leapt into the thick snow upon revival. No hesitation. Did you eat rocket fuel? So damn fast. The toad's voice echoed omnidirectionally, cleverly masking its position. Yet moments later, another armor-piercing round blew its head off again. Even buried under snow, Qi Zhao's fate perception could still track it. Reviving once more, the toad frantically zigzagged beneath the snow, never lingering in one spot for more than a second. Seeing this, Qi Zhao holstered his pistol. Run all you want. No point wasting energy on something unkillable. As long as it learned fear. The priority now was escaping this dome. His silver combat suit maintained perfect temperature, but Lao Yu lacked such protection. Right on cue, Lao Yu came running over, reporting loudly, Captain. Explosives can't break through. Any gaps we make just instantly reseal. Chapter 288, turning you into a toad. Before Qi Zhao came to chop the toad, he had instructed Lao Yu to attempt breaking through the barrier. Now it seemed they were encountering some difficulties. The accumulated snow on the ground had reached just below Qi Zhao's calves. By visual estimation, it was already 30 centimeters thick. The two men might as well have been standing in a freezer set to minus 30 degrees Celsius, with Lao Yu relying entirely on his physical constitution and the flame cashew to endure. But continuing like this wasn't a solution. Qi Zhao slowly approached the nearest snow wall, crimson energy swirling once more at the corners of his mouth. Not only that. This time even his pupils had turned blood red. Snowflakes landing on the back of his hand evaporated instantly. Flames seemed to blaze from Chijiao's eyes, a manifestation of his burning inner fire. The already ignited Nichiren blade now burned even more fiercely. Flame breathing. 10th form. Listen to the dragon's roar. With Chijiao's low chant, the flames he unleashed transformed into a blazing dragon that roared toward the snow wall. The fire dragon violently collided with a thick snow barrier, forcibly carving out a narrow path. Even while constantly moving, the toad kept watching the situation closely. Croak? What's that? A fire dragon? Seeing the destructive power of the fire dragon, the toad's heart trembled. Oh no, could he actually break through this great snow barrier? No way, no way. The great snow barrier's weakness was its exterior. Easy to break from the outside. But attacking from inside increased the difficulty hundreds of times. Sure enough, after the fire dragon tunneled through nearly 3 to 4 meters of snow, it lost energy and dissipated into the blizzard. Chijiao remained in his sword-slashing stance, standing motionless for a long moment. Then he took a deep breath, recovering slightly before sheathing his Nichiren blade. He turned to Lao Yu and gave a thumbs up. Damn tough indeed. Seeing this, the toad felt a surge of joy. He's giving up. I knew it. How could someone like him possibly break the great snow barrier? Thinking this, the toad proudly raised its head. This was a barrier personally left by my master. But the next second, it sensed something wrong. The space around it felt tighter, and hotter. Looking up, it found itself clutched in Chijiao's hand. No matter how fast you run, can you outrun time-zero combined with fate and sight? Hey, do I need to completely kill you to end this? Chijiao spoke coldly, making the toad's heart shudder. Croak. You can't kill me. And don't think you're getting out of here. The great snow barrier can't be broken from inside. Either return the pear tree obediently or freeze to death here and become its fertilizer. Chijiao raised an eyebrow. Can't be broken from inside? Meaning it can be broken from outside? The toad startled. Croak. Can't be broken from outside either. Croak. Chijiao sneered. The toad's involuntary flinch just now had already confirmed his suspicion. At the same time, he tightened his grip slightly. You died too easily the last few times. I've got something special here. Want to try it? As he spoke, Chijiao took out a pink potion from his realm bracelet. This was toad potion he'd purchased recently from the trading platform. Having used up his previous batch and finding it quite effective, he'd acquired more. This is toad potion. Taken internally, it stimulates mental alertness, increasing agility and recovery. But applied externally. Hey. Chijiao grinned eerily. Just make a cut on your belly and pour this in. Then your smooth skin will grow clusters of red bumps. He traced a light line across the toad's belly with his index finger. Those bumps will be huge and unbearably itchy. Scratching them makes them ooze pus. Wherever the pus touches, new bumps grow. An endless cycle. Then you won't be a toad anymore. We'll have to call you a warty toad. Hearing this, the toad trembled uncontrollably. Croak. No animal abuse. Chijiao immediately slapped it hard across the face. Look who's talking. See what you've done to my buddy here. Nearby, Lao Yu shivered violently, steam puffing from his mouth. SS so cold, Captain. Calling it animal abuse? Seems you really want to die. Dazed from the slap, the toad couldn't tell which way was up. Stop this snow now. With that, Chijiao uncorked the toad potion and took out a small dagger, coating its tip with the liquid. Feeling the cold blade tracing circles on its belly, the toad's legs shook uncontrollably. While fatal injuries in this barrier would let it revive using snowflakes, that didn't mean it was immune to pain or torture. Why you? Return the pear tree, and the SS snow will stop by itself. Chijiao's expression clearly said like I believe that. Really? Truly? Not telling the truth? Chijiao pressed the blade slightly harder. Last chance. War tie to add. The toad's metal defenses completely collapsed as it screamed, I'm telling the truth. Really? Don't cut me. I don't want to become a warty toad. Chijiao snorted and put away the dagger. The toad froze. Was he letting me go? This barrier was obviously not your doing, you amateur toad. Talk. Who's your master? Who said it wasn't me? I made this. The toad was feeling guilty, but still acted tough. It might have failed to protect the pear tree, but it absolutely couldn't betray its master. Besides, this guy was still trapped here. He'd freeze to death eventually. No need to sell out the master at all. Won't talk? Whatever. Not that interested anyway. Then Chijiao glanced to his right and nodded. The next instant, the snow dome shattered with a crash. The toad's jaw dropped. There stood a bizarre figure wearing a black top hat and a plague doctor's bird beak mask, holding a lantern. Dozens of executioner's chains extended from his palms. These were what had shattered the great snow barrier from outside. Sorry I'm late. The Great Snow Barrier hadn't just trapped Qizhou. It had also blocked his psychic connection with Taideng. But Qizhou's earlier fire dragon had weakened a 3-meter section of the snow wall enough for brief communication. Upon receiving Qizhou's summons, Taideng had immediately rushed from the lab. Learning the barrier was vulnerable from outside had been a relief. The rest was just extracting more information from the toad. With the barrier broken, the blizzard and accumulated snow vanished instantly. As if they'd never existed. Simultaneously, the toad in Qizhou's hand melted into a pile of snow before disappearing completely. Qizhou glanced at it, then casually dusted his hands. Interesting technique. This barrier definitely wasn't that toad's work. One of the train captains perhaps? Seems we shouldn't linger here much longer. Ah well. He was only from the 5th class, having arrived barely 2 months ago. Though his growth had been exceptionally fast, his accumulated strength still couldn't match these old-timers. But at least the ice crystal frozen pear tree was successfully acquired. Chapter 289, Ice Fruit Express Conductor, Wonky Snow. He focused his mind and sensed the beautiful ice crystal tree within the realm bracelet. The tree's roots were transparent like ice crystals, making the entire plant resemble a work of art. Although they had obtained the tree, transplanting it would be troublesome. But there was no rush, stored in the realm bracelet, it would never deteriorate. Time stop. Conductor, your clothes. Lao Yu ran over and handed the silver combat suit back to Qizhou. Earlier, seeing Lao Yu shivering from cold, Qizhou had let him wear the suit. Thanks to his flame-breathing technique, Qizhou could endure the cold even without the suit. Their earlier performance for the toad had been pure acting. Their goal was to extract more information from it. Conductor? What is it? The grass on your head. It's turned yellow. Really? Qizhou reached up and touched it lightly, the withered grass fell off immediately. Examining the dried, shriveled plant in his hand, he wondered, had the photosynthetic serum failed? It hadn't been 12 hours yet. Could the extreme cold have frozen it? Or maybe the previous dose was insufficient? Failing before the 12-hour mark? Qizhou had no time to dwell on it, several strange plants were already approaching. He quickly retrieved the newly produced photosynthetic serum and injected it into his arm. As fresh grass sprouted on his head, the plants reluctantly retreated. Is the new serum ready? Taideng shook his head. Before I came, we still needed 19% more nectar collection. Qizhou nodded. Even with full nectar, production would take another 2.5 hours. This progress was far too slow. With only one serum synthesizer and insufficient worker bees, they needed to change strategy. Qizhou made his decision. Once they got the next photosynthetic serum, they would relocate. Find another greenhouse. Originally he wanted to secure 3 serums before moving, but time wouldn't wait. Moreover, this place wasn't safe. Too close to that other greenhouse. After one last look at the battlefield, Qizhou turned and left with Lao Yu and Taideng. Snowflake Village. Located in Yurden's 5th district. The name came from its position at the territory's edge. Every winter, snow fell here first. And spring arrived last. Though it was still autumn in Yurden, a chill already lingered here. The village houses were uniformly single-story, designed to withstand cold climates and retain warmth. Inside a modest home, Wonky Snow lounged cat-like on a beige fabric sofa. Her jet-black hair contrasted with white eyebrows and lashes, and piercing ice blue eyes. Exactly matching the projected woman Qizhou had seen earlier. Her white European-style coffee table overflowed with fruit platters. Each plate held vibrant, aromatic fruits of every variety. Common fruits like apples, bananas, and oranges mixed with rarer carambolas and guavas. Even extremely precious varieties like dragon blood plums, rainbow pineapples, and chocolate sugarcane. Their only common feature, all emitted frosty vapor. The telltale sign of frozen treats. Wonky Snow extended a pale arm, plucked a frozen white grape, and popped it in her mouth. The frozen fruit crunched like refreshing shaved ice. Her body shivered involuntarily, blue polished toes curling in response. She exhaled a satisfied puff of white breath. I knew it. These sacred maiden grapes taste best frozen. Though artificially frozen fruit can't compare to the real thing. Muttering to herself, she ate another grape, savoring the icy crunch. This reminded her of the ice crystal frozen pear tree she'd stumbled upon in the Blood Moon Botanical Garden. In 3 years, those pears should be fully grown. Genuine ice crystal pears, far superior to these artificial frozen fruits. Saliva trickled unnoticed from Wonky Snow's lips at the thought. How she craved them now. Those pears must be so icy. So sweet. So juicy. So tender. He. Suddenly, Wonky Snow frowned as if sensing something. My guardian snow toad at the ice crystal frozen pear tree is dead. Impossible, that was a fully grown snow toad. Against ordinary conductors, it wouldn't just win easily, it would dominate. Plus I set up a great snow barrier to enhance its combat power inside. Only orderly heaven captains or top-tier wanted criminals could defeat it. Oh no, my frozen pears. The toad's death means the barrier was broken. Which means something happened to my pear tree. She leapt from the sofa, slammed the door open, and rushed outside. The courtyard held 4 barbecue grills and a dozen people. Men and women, young and old. All were Wonky Snow's followers. Her traveling companions. Wonky Snow hated the rainy season, so they always stopped in Yurden during monsoons. To rest. Only continuing their journey when rains ended. As always. Seeing her sudden appearance, a man holding a sweet potato grinned, "Snow sis, perfect timing. How do you know your frozen melon was ready? Quick, while it's cold." Wonky Snow waved dismissively. "My snow toad is dead." "Which one?" "The one at Blood Moon Botanical Garden." As she spoke, Wonky Snow removed her hairpin and pointed at the empty yard. Blue light flashed, revealing an 18-carriage train in blue and white livery. Its sides adorned with murals of every fruit imaginable, common and exotic, familiar and unknown. This was Wonky Snow's train, the Ice Fruit Express. That frozen pear tree is probably in trouble too. "I need to go." Hearing this, the man with the melon immediately offered, "Snow sis, I'll come with you. Let me see who dares mess with your things. If I catch them, I'll turn their tendons into slingshots." "Yes, Snow sis, me too." Another man put down his lamb skewers and declared, "No need for you to handle this, we'll take care of them." Wonky Snow couldn't help sighing internally at their enthusiasm. Chapter 290, New Greenhouse. If not for the fact that the ice crystal frozen pear tree couldn't survive outside the botanical garden, she would have definitely found a way to transplant it into her train. Helpless, she could only move the pear tree to a remote location. Then she left behind her strongest snow toad and set up a great snow barrier as protection. Everything had been peaceful for so long. Who could have imagined something would happen today? Wonky Snow's expression remained unchanged as she said, "No need, I'll go alone. More people means wasting more travel cards. Those freedom activists have been causing trouble lately, and I can't reach that person. We can't afford to waste travel cards recklessly." Hearing this, those who had been clamoring to go with her calmed down. "But what if there are too many enemies?" "Sister Snow, you're going alone." Someone interrupted him. "What are you saying? Are you doubting Sister Snow's strength?" "No, of course not." "Exactly. Sister Snow is so powerful she could handle even a class-wanted criminal with ease. I was just being overly worried." "Alright, I'll be back soon. You all rest here properly. Everyone's worked hard these past days. Following Sister Snow is never hard." They chorused in unison. Wonky Snow waved her hand, the train door opened, and she stepped inside. The interior was unbearably damp, with water dripping from the ceiling. Wonky Snow frowned, her face twisting in disgust. Rainy season. How revolting. A puff of white mist escaped her lips as the temperature inside plummeted. All moisture instantly froze into ice. Dampness turned to bitter cold. Feeling somewhat more comfortable, Wonky Snow summoned a light screen with a wave of her hand. She then retrieved a transparent card with black patterns embedded within from her spatial storage device. Detecting one-time travel card. Please select destination station, Blood Moon Botanical Garden. Confirmed. You are heading to Blood Moon Botanical Garden. The card in Wonky Snow's hand dissolved into streams of light that surged into the train's front. Then the announcement sounded, "Train departing. Please remain seated." With a flash of white light, the train vanished. The three hurried back to the laboratory. The flower nectar energy gauge still needed 2% to reach full capacity. And this was already considered fast. The reason was simple. The destroyed greenhouse had caused the flowers to wither, leading to mass bee deaths. Nearly all surviving bees were gathered here now. Qizhao had tried storing the photosynthetic serum device in his realm bracelet, but failed. Even the special compartments couldn't accommodate it. The reason eluded him completely. Only two possibilities existed for why something couldn't be stored in the realm bracelet. First, it had a soul. Items with souls couldn't be stored. Like that turtle in Qizhao's train that had to be carried separately. Second, it was too big. Indeed, too massive. Bigger than an underground bunker. Thus the issue was an impossibility, but the excessive time required. The thick, cable-like roots extending deep underground from the serum device might be far more extensive than imagined. For all he knew, they might span the entire subterranean area. Otherwise, they could simply store the device in the train and leave. Seeing the nectar energy gauge nearing full capacity as new photosynthetic serum began production, Qizhao turned to Tiding. "This batch will take another 2.5 hours. Lao Yu and I will head west first to locate the new greenhouse. Join us after you get the serum." Haideng nodded in agreement. With a nod of his own, Qi Zhao exited the lab and recalled the train into his realm bracelet. Lao Yu followed as they both stepped onto nanobot platforms and flew westward. Brother Lap, the captain and I are scouting ahead this time. Unlike Lao Yu's jubilant mood, Qi Zhao felt uneasy. Who knew how far they'd have to travel to find another greenhouse? Even Orderly Heaven's maps carried disclaimers. Actual conditions took precedence. Those layouts were merely references. If I could map the entire botanical garden, couldn't I make a fortune selling charts? Qi Zhao unconsciously nodded at the thought. But creating a complete map would require staying here indefinitely. More crucially, collecting special plants. Both endeavors would demand ample photosynthetic serum during this blood moon period. Though the full moon had waned to gibbous, the transition was painfully slow. Qi Zhao shook his head. Looks like the blood moon will persist for quite some time. An hour and a half later. At the maximum range of his fate discernment, Qi Zhao detected a laboratory. Finally found it. My eyes are about to fall out. To avoid missing the greenhouse, he'd maintained continuous fate discernment. Their hearts pounding with excitement, they flew to the greenhouse. Its structure perfectly mirrored the previous one. A massive central flower room with 4 connected laboratories at each cardinal direction. Moreover, this greenhouse remained intact. The dome stood unharmed, filled with blooming flowers and swarms of bees. Each adjoining laboratory contained 3 undamaged photosynthetic serum devices. Perfect? 12 devices could produce 12 serums simultaneously. 12 times more efficient than the last greenhouse. Through fate discernment, Qi Zhao had grasped the greenhouse's layout without entering. But why so many corpses in the labs? Or rather, human skeletons. Fortune favors the bold. Detecting no movement, they proceeded inside. They found the entrance and entered the flower room. Then through the glass corridor, they reached a laboratory. The door opened to reveal floors littered with bones. Not from special or monstrous plants. Just ordinary human remains. Stepping over the skeletal debris, Qi Zhao advanced. One particular skeleton caught his attention. A withered white flower grew from it. Wait. A death-speak epiphyllum. He crouched for closer inspection. Definitely a death-speak epiphyllum. These flowers only grew in absolute darkness without any light. To fully bloom, they required transplantation onto corpses. At peak bloom, they could make the deceased utter their final words. Their flowering period was brief. Wilting immediately after blooming. This one had clearly been transplanted intentionally. So, a battlefield? No, too clean. No signs of damage whatsoever. More like one-sided slaughter. Qi Zhao shook his head and stood up. The bones were just bones. No clothing or identifiers remained. With no forensic skills, he couldn't determine their age either. The serum devices here showed full blue and yellow energy gauges. But the red energy gauge read 0. Chapter 291, Perfect, the quantity was just right. The red energy value represents blood. TSK, more work to do. Qi Zhao shook his head and walked to the open space outside the greenhouse, taking out the train. This time, what he was trading wasn't flowers, but fresh blood. It must be said, the trading platform is like a cross-dimensional Pinduoduo, you can find anything there. Aside from those rare and precious items like module cards, skill cards, high-grade treasure chests and keys, you can buy almost anything. As long as you have the coins. Soon, 12 100-liter barrels of blood were obtained, costing Qi Zhao 11 train coins. Seeing Qi Zhao's generosity, the seller gave him a 1-coin discount. Qi Zhao and Lao Yu poured the blood into the dedicated blood input ports beside each serum machine, starting the production process. 12 serum machines could produce 12 photosynthetic serums every 2.5 hours. Now this speed and output are more like it. While waiting for production, Qi Zhao wasn't idle either. He took Lao Yu to explore the surroundings for any special plants. It must be said, although this stop is called a botanical garden, its size makes it more like a god's private garden. Being here, one can deeply feel the insignificance of humans and the vastness of the universe. This was the first time Qi Zhao had felt this way during his travels. There were numerous special plants with extraordinary effects here. Each one was no less valuable than an artifact. The only question was what the maximum quantity limit was for taking these special plants out. For example, aurora blueberries could refract light when eaten, achieving optical invisibility. Void cherries could swap spatial coordinates with any location within 300 meters when bitten. There was also destiny clover that could alter fate, removing one leaf could reset the outcome of a certain decision. Of course, Qi Zhao hadn't encountered these varieties yet. Besides special plants, those eerie plants also made excellent guardians. For those without proper intel, this place could be extremely dangerous. Not like Qi Zhao, who could come and go freely thanks to thorough preparation. Even during the current blood moon phase, Lao Yu as a plant human could wander about casually. Kaideng being a ghost could also move freely. They just needed to solve their own photosynthetic serum issue. As the saying goes, feed one mouth and the whole family is satisfied. If not for so many tasks, he'd really want to build a base here. But unfortunately, this was after all a level 9 danger zone. Plus, he still didn't know the collection methods for many special plants, including how to deal with the eerie plants. And this red world was really hard on the eyes. Qizhao still hadn't gotten used to it. But he still needed to stay here as long as possible. The travel qualifications here must accumulate extremely fast. Similarly, gains come with losses. Without departing and stopping at new stations, there would be no station arrival rewards. The lost train coins must be recouped elsewhere. Qizhao had already planned it out, selling special plants. This botanical garden was literally paved with gold. He could sell loads here, then take all these plants before leaving. Transplant them into his train and keep selling them. The only question was the maximum quantity limit for taking these special plants out. Regardless, he needed more planting carriages, greenhouses, and carriage expansion modifications. But even so, many tall plants couldn't be cultivated. Like this ice crystal frozen pear tree. Standing 5 meters tall, even expanded carriages only reached 3.5 meters in height. It couldn't be transplanted. Though keeping it in the realm bracelet wouldn't spoil it. After all, the realm bracelet stopped time. Things went in as they were and came out unchanged. There would be solutions eventually. Lao Yu's exclamation interrupted Qizhao's thoughts. Captain, look over there. It's a smile fruit tree. Qizhao turned to see a tree laden with golden orange-like fruits. They flew to the tree, whose smile fruits were mostly ripe. Yellow and about the size of kumquats. The fruits had smiling face patterns that granted group hypnotic laughter when eaten. Your laughter would force others to laugh along. But its collection method was special. You needed to continuously praise it sincerely until the smile patterns opened their eyes. If your praise wasn't sincere enough, it would release a neurotoxin, making you oscillate between hysterical laughter and crying, eroding your sanity. Wow! You're so beautiful. Yellow like the sun. Your smile is lovely like spring flowers. You're gorgeous, I adore you. Lao Yu unleashed a barrage of flattery, causing many smile fruits patterns to open their eyes. Qizhao couldn't help but give a thumbs up. Impressive. Lao Yu's ass-kissing skills were truly unmatched. After collecting over a dozen opened-eye smile fruits, Qizhao stored the entire tree in his realm bracelet. This 3-meter-tall tree could be planted inside the train. Simultaneously, Qizhao spent 900 train coins to upgrade his realm bracelet 4 levels at once. Now at 3rd tier 5th level, its storage capacity reached 500 cubic meters. A 400 cubic meter increase from before. All to accommodate these special plants. Of course, larger plants like the ice crystal frozen pear tree, shy grapevines, flame cashew trees, and the newly acquired smile fruit tree were all transferred to special storage compartments. Meanwhile, outside the botanical garden, the purple-haired girl was still trying to erode a dimensional barrier to enter this world. TSK. Why so thick? After all this time, why hasn't he come out? Could he really have died inside? Did the train return to origin? Well, with barriers this thick, it must be extremely dangerous inside. No. Even if he's dead, I'll find his corpse and hang it up for a good whipping. That lying human pup. A train coming? 3 kilometers diagonally above her, a blue and white train was breaking through the dimensional barrier into the Blood Moon Botanical Garden. Should I hitch a ride? The idea immediately occurred to her. Previously, because Qizhao's train kept changing directions unpredictably, she'd lost track several times. Only by following a faint scent had she found this place. But who could have expected he'd enter a world with such thick dimensional barriers? If I hitch a ride, my true form would be rejected, so only part of me could enter. If not, it'd take forever to get in. Whatever, even just a part is enough to kill that damned pup. Seeing the train getting shorter as it entered, she made her decision, immediately abandoning the crack she'd painstakingly eroded. Flying to the train's rear, the girl opened her mouth and stuck out her tongue. Her tongue was also purple, with faintly flowing black patterns. She grabbed and pulled off her tongue, which came alive as a leech, squirming in her hand. Meanwhile, a new tongue grew in her mouth. To the purple leech in her hand, she said, "Go, kill that human. He's seen me, so he must die." With that, she flung the leech, which stuck firmly to the blue train's rear. The train passed normally through the dimensional barrier until the leech completely entered, when the girl finally relaxed. Perfect, the quantity was just right. Chapter 292, Wonky Snow arrives. A flash of white light, and the Ice Fruit Express appeared within the botanical garden. Wonky Snow frowned as she gazed through the train window at the blood-red moon in the sky. A blood moon? What an unfortunate coincidence. Last time she visited, it wasn't a blood moon, so the serum machines hadn't activated. Without photosynthetic serum in hand, she'd need to be extra careful. Departure was scheduled for 22:00, and the current train time showed exactly 11:00, giving her maximum 11 hours here. Wonky Snow nodded, her eyes flashing with determination. More than enough time. Thief, don't even think of escaping. She pulled out a hairpin, and with a flash of blue light, stored the entire train inside it. Sensing the residual energy of the great snow barrier she'd left earlier, Wonky Snow's feet generated icy winds as snowflakes materialized around her. In the next instant, her figure vanished from the spot. Only a swirling cluster of snowflakes remained as evidence of her presence. The horde of strange plants that had come sniffing for living creatures all pounced on empty air. What Wonky Snow failed to notice was the purplish-black leech that crawled off the train's rear carriage moments before she stored it away. The leech raised its head, swaying left and right as if searching for a target. The approaching bizarre plant paid it no attention. Finally deciding on a direction, it began crawling southwest at astonishing speed, leaving behind faint purple mucus trails that the plants seemed to avoid. Though the great snow barrier had been broken, Wonky Snow still managed to teleport using the residual markers she'd left. This marked her fourth visit to the Blood Moon Botanical Garden. Aside from the initial random stop, she'd used precious travel cards for 2 subsequent visits. These cards were far too rare and expensive for frequent use. Were it not for her connections with certain individuals, she wouldn't even have obtained them. Seeing the vanished ice crystal frozen pear tree ignited fury in Wonky Snow's heart. Damn thief. She condensed a snowball in her right hand and scattered it skyward. The falling snowflakes soon coated the ground in a thin white layer, upon which chaotic footprints quickly became visible. Wonky Snow analyzed the prints instantly, 3 individuals. One set was unusually small. A child? Or perhaps not human, something like a goblin? Before she could ponder further, she twisted her waist and hurled a basketball-sized snowball with tremendous force. A black man-eating flower the size of a wash basin went flying over a dozen meters. More bizarre plants came charging from behind it. Above, dozens of bone-eating dandelions rained down glowing green seeds that would burrow into bones to consume marrow if they touched skin. Facing the seed downpour, Wonky Snow took a deep breath and exhaled sharply. An icy blue gust carrying extreme cold scattered the seeds effortlessly. With a wave of her hand, countless snowballs materialized midair, smashing the fragile bone-eating dandelions to pieces. As she dealt with the airborne threat, Wonky Snow formed an ice spear and hurled it like a javelin, impaling the snake-like sprout charging at her and pinning it to the ground. While focused on the frontal assault, translucent thread-like tendrils crept up from behind her, spine daughter, also called vertebrae devourer. Harmless-looking but deadly, these transparent threads would seek out a creature's anus to infiltrate and gradually replace its spinal nerves, turning the host into a living incubator. The daughter had nearly reached beneath Wonky Snow's skirt when a swirling snowstorm suddenly engulfed it. The extreme cold made the normally flexible tendrils brittle and rigid. A final icy breath from Wonky Snow shattered the frozen daughter into pieces that clattered to the ground like firecrackers. First, get the photosynthetic serum. Can't let these pests distract me. Wouldn't want to die from annoyance before catching the thief. I chose this place precisely because it's remote. The sunken terrain makes it hard to notice. Most importantly, there's a greenhouse nearby. Snowflakes gathered beneath Wonky Snow's feet, propelling her forward rapidly until a dilapidated greenhouse came into view. Huh? This was perfectly intact last visit. Inside, the sight of withered flowers and dead bees fueled her anger further. Of 4 laboratories, only 1 photosynthetic serum machine remained functional, and its nectar energy reserves stood at a mere 1%, insufficient for serum production. These despicable creatures. Reckless blundering is disgusting. Draining the pond to catch fish, never considering consequences. Only caring about immediate gains, never long-term development or those who come after. That pear tree thief must be the same sort. Without serum, she'd have to continue tracking unprotected. As Wonky Snow prepared to return to the barrier site, realization struck. Wait, no strange plant corpses near the pear tree means the thief must have used serum. That's why they weren't attacked. This is the nearest greenhouse, they probably got serum here. With a wave of her hand, another snowfall covered the frozen humanoid trees, revealing fresh footprints. Just as I thought. Well, saves me a trip back. Following the newly revealed tracks through swirling snow, Wonky Snow traced them outside where they suddenly vanished. Did they leave? Or flew away? No, one set continues westward. After a brief hesitation, Wonky Snow followed the western trail. Chapter 293, Tiding Battles. Wonky Snow, stuck, Stuck. No matter how I write, I'm not satisfied. I've revised several versions. Let me think again, I'll make up for what's missing. Sorry everyone. ORZ. After harvesting the smile fruit trees, Chizhao and Laoyu found a few Mundo healing orchids nearby. These orchids have translucent petals that condense blood Mundo drops. They can be taken internally to reduce inflammation or applied externally to stop bleeding. Each plant sells for 25 train coins, or the dewdrops it produces can be sold separately. In any case, the market is huge. After all, healing items are always in demand. After taking these orchids, the two hadn't gone far when Chizhao detected a strange plant over half a meter tall, with taikai balls hanging between its branches. When he and Laoyu reached the plant, Chizhao confirmed it was indeed a paradox mulberry. Among special plants, the paradox mulberry's strange effects rank in the top 5. Eating the black and white mulberries together allows one to exist in a state of both existing and not existing. Before maturing, the paradox mulberries resemble a pair of twins, entwined in each other's embrace. As they mature, the black and white mulberries gradually separate. Only when fully separated are they considered fully mature. Importantly, the paradox mulberries must never be picked before fully maturing. Otherwise, the picker will vanish from this world immediately. There was once a witness to a companion picking an immature paradox mulberry, and the moment the berry was plucked, that person vanished. Only the mulberry was left, lying alone on the ground. His companions searched for him for a long time but never found him. Most crucially, although he disappeared, his train account remained logged in. And it continued that way. Only after his train was sold much later was the account logged out. Paradox mulberries must be eaten in pairs to take effect. Eating only one berry carries a 50% chance of becoming a non-existent person. Of course, eating its pair restores the original state. Chizhao's eyes gleamed as he looked at the taikai-like, entwined paradox mulberries. Such a treasure, such a treasure. The effect's duration can be controlled at will, allowing one to exist or not exist. No matter if it's sword slashing, bullets firing, cannon shells exploding, or nuclear bombs leveling the ground. It's all useless. Even items, targeted skills, and ethereal curse-type skills have no effect. Because he simply does not exist. Tiding's eternal night blacklight domain is very similar. However, Tiding himself cannot be selected as a target. The paradox mulberry's code level surpasses even his eternal night blacklight. Of course, this effect lasts only 30 seconds. 30 seconds may seem short elsewhere. But in battle, 30 seconds is an eternity. Long enough to turn the tide of a fight. There were only 8 pairs of paradox mulberries on this mulberry tree, all immature. But Chizhao didn't care. With life force, he could accelerate their maturation. He aimed his palm at the pair highest up on the tree. This pair was the most mature, just a third away from fully separating. Under the shimmering green light, the black and white mulberries rapidly grew and separated. Sweat soaked his temples. This consumed more mental energy than he had expected. Almost there. Huff. Accelerating this paradox mulberry's maturation was even more exhausting than accelerating the wine pouch flowers twice. Chizhao had used over 80% of his mental energy to succeed. The black and white mulberries had fully separated. Chizhao exhaled and plucked them. Then he stored the entire paradox mulberry tree in the realm bracelet. With a thought, Chizhao observed the paradox mulberries floating inside the realm bracelet. Their underground roots were also entwined in pairs. Again, one black and one white, like taikai. Exactly like the pictures in the atlas. Seeing it firsthand made it feel even stranger. Truly a miraculous plant. Chizhao marveled inwardly. This trip's harvest was truly astounding if he told others. Laoyu, hungry? Not really, Captain. I'm hungry. Then, should I go back and cook? Chizhao patted Laoyu's head. Let's go back together. I'll teach you how to make farewell my concubine. There aren't any special plants around here, so let's cook and eat first. When Tiding arrives and someone guards the lab, we'll explore farther. Alright. Chizhao rubbed the back of Laoyu's head and sighed. This silly kid, you're not hungry, but I'm exhausted. No exploring outdoors when fatigued. If danger appears and you can't respond, it's not worth it. Meanwhile, Tiding sped westward. Thanks to telepathic connection with Chizhao, he wasn't afraid of losing direction. In his left hand, he held a lamp, in his right, tightly grasped a bee. That was the just-produced photosynthetic serum. As he focused on hurrying, a snowflake landed on his tall black top hat. Then a second, a third, a fourth. He seemed completely unaware and kept his head down, pressing on. Snowflakes thickened, and Tiding's pace quickened. Until a basketball-sized snowball flew straight at his head from ahead, forcing him to stop. Tiding suddenly raised his hand, and a noose chain shot out with a whoosh. so fast it made a slicing sound in the air. The chain pierced through 7 or 8 basketball-sized snowballs in a row, like a string of candied hawthorns coated in sugar. Wonky Snow appeared, blocking Tiding's path. "Humphrey, little thief. You're pretty fierce." Tiding wasn't keen on fighting the suddenly appearing stranger woman. His priority was to find Shizhou and deliver the freshly produced photosynthetic serum to him. He shook his arm, and the snowball-laden noose chain vanished. At the same time, 3 new noose chains burst out, pointing directly at Wonky Snow's neck. Wonky Snow was shocked in her heart. Such speed for iron chains. She raised her right hand, condensing a large number of snowballs to counterattack. Though they looked fragile, her condensed snowballs were actually harder than marble. Still, the chains easily pierced through 3 or 4 snowballs before stopping. Their power was extraordinary. After blocking this round of chains, Wonky Snow noticed Tiding escaping to the right. A slight smile curved her lips as the falling snowflakes thickened further. The world shifted from red to white. A white world. Tiding's all-black figure stood out starkly. Great Snow Barrier. The snow formed a sphere, enveloping a 100-meter radius completely. Previously, Shizhou and Laoyu had been trapped inside this snow dome. Now it was Tiding's turn. Wonky Snow originally planned to tail him all the way, tracking down the other 2 footprints owners. But under the Blood Moon state, the strange plants greatly disrupted her tracking. She had to constantly fend off weird plants attacking her. If she kept chasing, she'd be utterly exhausted. So she changed strategy, catch one alive first. Wonky Snow caught up to Tiding and trapped him inside the Great Snow Barrier. Tiding was familiar with this snow wall. He had previously broken it from outside to rescue Shizhou and Laoyu. Now, he used the same trick, summoning chains to continuously strike the snow wall. But the snowflakes quickly flew to repair any cracks. Don't waste your effort. You can't break through. Meanwhile, Wonky Snow stepped on the snow. Where's the ice crystal frozen pear tree? Hand it over. Snow fell heavier. Inside the barrier, swirling snow and wind dazzled the eyes. Seeing Tiding ignoring her and continuing to batter the snow wall, Wonky Snow frowned. You can't escape. My great snow barrier can't be broken from inside. I advise you to be sensible and return the pear tree. Pear tree? What pear tree? Don't play dumb, you little thieves. If the ice crystal frozen pear tree isn't with you, it's with your companion. Fine, then I'll use you as a bargaining chip. Seeing the snow wall was unbreakable, Tiding stopped and turned around. What, you're giving up so easily? Tiding chuckled softly. The barrier can't be broken. So how about I kill you instead? With that, he opened his leather jacket and carefully placed the serum into his chest. Wonky Snow noticed and raised an elegant brow. Underneath the jacket was a skeleton frame? Not human, a skeleton monster? Bone spirit. Wait. That's photosynthetic serum. They really do have photosynthetic serum. Tiding secured the serum and shot out another noose chain. Kill me? Big talk. Wonky Snow continued condensing snowballs to block, raising her right hand with fingers spread. Several ice spikes formed, carried by snowflakes, shooting toward Tiding. Tiding conjured another chain in his palm, spinning and swinging it like a windmill shield. The Great Snow Barrier was only about 100 meters in diameter, the maximum range for a single noose chain. So the entire barrier interior was within his attack range. The chain was not only flexible and fast but could also auto-seek targets. He could make it disappear and shoot out a new one at will. Finally, Wonky Snow's snowball condensing speed lagged behind the chain, leaving her briefly defenseless. The noose chain wrapped around her snow-white neck and snapped it instantly. But no blood splattered. Wonky Snow, strangled and killed, transformed into a snow toad and vanished on the spot. Tiding retracted his chain and stood in the swirling snow without rushing to attack further. Although his chains could actively track targets, he needed to select a target and shoot out the chains first. Obviously, he had lost target info now. He didn't have Shizhou's insight into fate. This heavy snow seriously affected his vision. The snow kept falling, the temperature dropped steadily. Wonky Snow, the instigator, was obviously unaffected. Instead, she enjoyed it. She stepped on icy snowflakes, flying in the air. That chain was interesting, wavering between real and illusion, indeed hard to defend against. Good thing for the toad substitute, otherwise, she'd have been hit. Wonky Snow stretched out both hands, clapped them together toward Tiding. At the same time, giant snow palms appeared on his left and right sides. The snow palms slammed down like swatting mosquitoes, delivering a double hit to Tiding. The snow palms separated and then hit again. Wonky Snow kept clapping continuously. Clap 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 clap. The giant snow palms moved with her hands, opening and closing repeatedly. After more than a dozen hits, Wonky Snow stopped. Panting, she blew on her red palms and looked at Tiding on the ground. He should be unconscious, right? I didn't hit him hard, otherwise, he'd be minced meat by now. Wonky Snow didn't like killing, she only wanted the frozen pear tree back. However, Tiding hadn't fainted because he summoned 10 noose chains that surrounded him, firmly protecting him. The iron chains could attack or defend. Still, several of his ribs were broken by the snow palms. He retracted the chains, the flame in his hand shifted from blue to green, healing himself. Still not unconscious? Tough to beat? But it seemed he had no means of reconnaissance and hadn't discovered her yet. Wonky Snow brought her right index and middle fingers together, raised them to her lips, and softly chanted, "Ice Coffin Burial." A transparent ice blue coffin quietly appeared behind Tiding and suddenly swallowed him whole. At the same time, the coffin lid slammed shut with a bang. All this happened very quickly. From the coffin's appearance to sealing Tiding took only about a second. Wonky Snow appeared in front of the coffin, looking at Tiding and sighed. "How is it? Cold?" The temperature inside is minus 30 degrees Celsius. Ordinary people wouldn't last long. Tiding seemed to hear a joke and chuckled lightly. "Cold? I find it quite comfortable." After healing his broken ribs, the flame in Tiding's hands switched back to blue. Inside the narrow ice coffin, he shot out a noose chain toward Wonky Snow. Boom. The chain slammed against the coffin lid, not even leaving a white mark. Such hard ice. Tens of times harder than those marble-like snowballs. No way to break it open, and in this cramped space, it was impossible. Give up. You can't break it. I'm not killing you, I only want the pear tree. Tiding remained silent, continuing to bombard the coffin lid with noose chains. Aren't you afraid of death? Wonky Snow showed a disgusted expression at his indifferent attitude. Death? I'm already dead. How can I die again? Wonky Snow said coldly, even the dead can die. Give me the photosynthetic serum and take me to your companion. Impossible. You won't get the serum. That's not up to you. Wonky Snow reached through the ice coffin toward Tiding's chest. The serum was right there. With the serum, she wouldn't have to worry about those strange plants anymore. Tiding tried to stop her with a noose chain, but it was useless. Her arm seemed made of flying snowflakes. Appearing solid but impossible for the chain to bind. Seeing her about to open his jacket to take the serum, a thick black flame suddenly burst from Tiding's chest, enveloping his entire body. At the same time, darkness that could swallow all light spread out. Eternal Night Black Light. Chapter 294, Where's Your Goblin Partner? By burning his core flame, the domain he unleashed allowed him to enter an untargetable state. Wonky Snow's arm reaching into the ice coffin grasped nothing but empty air. At the same time, Tiding spoke coldly, "You can't kill me, nor can you take the serum. That's final." The interior of the ice coffin was pitch black, thick as if soaked in ink. Tiding attempted to expand his Eternal Night Black Light domain by another fraction, but found it impossible. This ice coffin possessed similar domain-like effects. Now trapped within another's domain, he couldn't envelop their domain in turn. Unable to attack, he didn't lose heart, opting instead for pure defense. After all, he remained in an untargetable state, with the photosynthetic serum in his chest equally untouchable. Thus began their strange stalemate. Wonky Snow snorted lightly, withdrawing her hand with visible frustration. That technique must be draining you dry. How long can you possibly last? I've got all the time in the world. Want to play the waiting game? I'll oblige. With that, Wonky Snow's form dissolved into snowflakes, scattering with the wind. Tiding tried bombarding the ice coffin with his Eternal Night Black Light enhanced gallows chains. To no effect. Next, he summoned spectral harpooners. Ordinary harpooner spirits first, their ethereal forms passing through the coffin to emerge outside. Then he enhanced them with Eternal Night Black Light, sending them into frenzied states. These enraged harpooners not only gained physical forms but saw their combat power quintuple. A dozen spectral harpooners swung their weapons against the coffin from outside. Yet again, not even leaving scratch marks. What a terrifying skill. In one-on-one combat, once sealed within this ice coffin, escape seemed nearly impossible. Without abilities like blink, teleportation, astral projection, or other rule-defying skills, breaking free was unthinkable. Tiding currently possessed no such capabilities. Mainly because the coffin's appearance had been instantaneous. Sealing him before he could react. He'd underestimated his opponent, should have activated Eternal Night Black Light immediately. Tiding reflected bitterly. After several failed attempts, he ceased wasting energy, recalling his harpooners. Focusing entirely on maintaining Eternal Night Black Light, he left Wonky Snow no openings. Within the Great Snow Barrier, the blizzard intensified. Tiding, sealed in his ice coffin, gradually became buried under mounting snowdrifts. This core black fire consumed spiritual energy voraciously. Though Tiding's domain range was limited, prolonged maintenance still caused irreversible damage. Commonly known as burning one's foundation. But Tiding couldn't afford concerns now. The serum couldn't be surrendered. This was his mission, his duty, his purpose. Bound by the spirit-warding talisman, Chijiao's orders took absolute precedence. Even over his own life. Trading soul for freedom. Did he regret it? Not a chance. Life's precious, but freedom's priceless. Compared to eternal confinement in that sunless town, he vastly preferred his current existence. Now completely snowblind, his vision filled with endless white. To sustain his domain, his core essence had begun burning. Should it exhaust completely, he'd cease to exist. Right then, Wonky Snow's voice echoed omnidirectionally, "Your partner seems to have abandoned you. Hand over the serum, and I'll let you go." Met with Tiding's silence, her tone sharpened with renewed anger. How infuriating. Stay trapped then. Wonky Snow also felt urgency. While the Great Snow Barrier masked her presence, without the photosynthetic serum, those aberrant plants would send her immediately upon leaving. Endless. Absolutely endless. The barrier was powerful, but unfortunately stationary. It couldn't move. As time trickled away, their deadlock persisted. Until a fire dragon shattered the snow wall from outside, bursting through with overwhelming force. The Great Snow Barrier fragmented instantly. Above, Chijiao stood upon nanobot swarms, niche iron blade in hand, eyes blazing crimson. TCH, seriously now? No wonder I lost contact with Tiding. This damn thing again. Chijiao now understood the barrier's peculiarity. While impact resistance felt identical, external repairs didn't occur. Thus even weaker attacks could eventually breach it through persistence. But internally, within the barrier, swirling snowflakes automatically repaired damage. Unless one could shatter the barrier in a single strike, repairs completed swiftly. With the barrier broken, surrounding aberrant plants detected Wonky Snow, swarming toward her. Simultaneously, Chijiao, with fate discernment active, also locked onto her. This woman matched the humanoid projection by the pear tree exactly. So she'd been here all along? Damn, what a miscalculation. His psychic link with Tiding also re-established. Chijiao's first command, cease maintaining eternal night black light. No more foundation burning. Tiding complied immediately. As aberrant plants mobbed Wonky Snow, Chijiao cleaved through snowdrifts with his blade, exposing the ice coffin below. Palm against the coffin. Realm bracelet, store. The coffin that had resisted Tiding's utmost efforts vanished effortlessly under Chijiao's method. Tiding promptly produced the photosynthetic serum from his chest, handing it over. Perfect condition. Chijiao pocketed it, turning toward the plant-encircled Wonky Snow in the distance. While battling aberrant flora, Wonky Snow reeled from Chijiao's actions. Impossible. How could he make my ice coffin disappear? What ability is that? Still, her shock was momentary. At least not the type to abandon comrades and flee alone. Likely the same culprit behind the pear tree's disappearance. Perfect? Two birds with one stone. After clearing the opportunistic plants, Wonky Snow addressed Chijiao, "Where's your goblin partner?" This gave Chijiao pause. Goblin? What goblin? Then realization struck. His only other partner was Lao Yu. A goblin? Lao Yu would rage if he heard. What do you want with him? To arrest all you thieves together. Us? Thieves? Chijiao laughed heartily, hand on Tiding's shoulder. Tiding, you steal from her? No. Me neither, so must be Lao Yu then. Come on, let's go ask him. With that, Chijiao grabbed Tiding and activated commandment, 0 time. After barely 200 meters, he halted abruptly. His senses detected snow walls. Another great snow barrier. An even more expansive one. Chapter 295, What kind of person are you? Wonky Snow had been waiting for this moment. Snowflakes swirled as a massive barrier over 500 meters in diameter had already formed. This was something she had secretly prepared in advance. All to wait for Chijiao and his group to arrive. Not only that, but this barrier was continuously shrinking. Chijiao tested it and found it still difficult to break through. He gave an awkward smile and returned to his original position. Seeing Chijiao return covered in snow and dust, Wonky Snow's lips curled slightly upward. Why not keep going? Chijiao raised his hand to rub his temples, looking utterly helpless. Suddenly remembered, I forgot to take something. What thing? Your life. Chijiao drew lust, activated the words of power, 0 time, and instantly appeared behind Wonky Snow. The blade swept toward her snow-white neck. With a whoosh, Wonky Snow's head flew off, but just like before, no blood sprayed out. Her body turned into snowflakes scattering across the ground. How crude. Wonky Snow's voice came from all directions. Little thief, so unreasonable. You keep calling me little thief. Where is this thief you speak of? Was that pear tree planted by you? Did you cultivate it? It was ownerless to begin with. I take it and suddenly become a thief. What kind of logic is that? While bantering, Chizhao expanded the detection range of his fate insight ability. Yet within the entire Great Snow Barrier, there was no trace of Wonky Snow. As if she had merged with the swirling snowflakes. Nowhere to be found, yet everywhere at once. Hearing Chizhao's question, she fell silent for a moment. You're right, that pear tree grew naturally. But it once encountered someone like you before, and I was the one who protected it. What do you mean someone like me? Wonky Snow shifted topics as if telling another story. Once there was an enormous supermarket where 3 different people entered one after another. The first person took just enough water, food, and basic necessities for themselves, then left satisfied. The second person loaded everything they could into their cart, wishing they could take the entire supermarket's contents. Even when forced to leave, they kept thinking why there wasn't more time to empty the store completely. The third person acted like the second, frantically piling things into their cart upon entering. But more than that, before leaving, they set the entire supermarket ablaze, burning it all to the ground. They said if they couldn't take everything, they'd make sure no one else could have it either. Listening to her story, Chizhao couldn't help but frown. So tell me, which kind of person are you? Without waiting for his answer, she continued, that pear tree cannot grow outside this place. It only thrives by absorbing the unique energy here. Branching, leafing, flowering, and fruiting. Taken away, it will gradually wither until dying completely. What does taking it away make you? Cutting off your nose to spite your face. How are you any different from that arsonist? Instead of answering, Chizhao countered, and you? Which kind are you? The first kind, I suppose. Of course I'm the first kind. Wonky Snow showed no false modesty, her tone carrying a hint of pride. No wonder the Great Snow Barrier didn't activate when I picked the frozen pears. Only when I tried storing the pear tree in the realm bracelet did her trap trigger. This actually aligns with her philosophy. In her worldview, the frozen pears were like supermarket goods. Anyone could pick them. Because those were things everyone had a right to enjoy. But the pear tree itself? Absolutely off limits. You can't eat your fill then flip the table so no one else can eat. Her thinking is quite idealistic. How could reality ever work that way? Chizhao sneered inwardly. Only those who never lacked food or drink could be the first kind. The second kind are normal people. Such generosity only comes from never having lacked those things. And he genuinely hadn't known the frozen pear tree couldn't survive outside this place, eventually withering away. Chizhao didn't particularly doubt her claim. If it were false, she would have taken the tree long ago. Why leave it here for others to find? Is it just this frozen pear tree, or are all special plants like this? No, that can't be. If so, Orderly Heaven's intelligence would have mentioned it. So likely only certain special plants face this limitation. Chizhao nodded, finding this explanation more plausible. Of course I'm the first kind too. He responded with an air of righteousness. You? Wonky Snow sounded like she'd heard a joke, her tone laced with disdain. Wasn't it your group that destroyed the photosynthetic serum equipment near the pear tree greenhouse? Why the hell would I destroy that? Do I look like someone with nothing better to do? Chizhao immediately refuted. Yet you saw how badly the greenhouse was damaged by others. If you wanted to protect things and had the ability, why not do better? The thought of such a beautiful frozen pear tree possibly being destroyed by others pains me. Truth be told, I'm actually a biological conservationist by profession. I'm taking it away precisely to protect it. That the greenhouse wasn't Chizhao's doing, Wonky Snow could believe. The withered state of the flowers showed the damage happened long ago. But this biological conservationist nonsense? Pure fabrication. What does he take me for? A child? I told you, that tree will wither outside this world. How exactly would you protect it? Moreover, I didn't try killing your companion. I only want the pear tree returned. Hearing this, Chizhao shook his head with a chuckle. Not trying to kill him? You sealed him in a damn coffin. He didn't even take the tree. Why target him? You should be apologizing to him right now. Wonky Snow was momentarily stunned by Chizhao's bizarre logic. If I apologize, will you return the tree? Apologize first, then we'll see. Wonky Snow fell silent. Her current approach of reasoning with Chizhao stemmed mainly from nearly failing to react to his earlier blade strike. That terrifying speed was horrifying. Like teleportation. Utterly impossible to counter. And he clearly had some detection skill, finding her position accurately despite the snowstorm. Only this snow-melded state could evade his detection. Though in this form, she couldn't use other skills. Otherwise she'd have crushed him with snow palms already. Plus, her substitute skill was still on cooldown. Appearing now risked another strike. Her goals were twofold. First, buying time until her substitute skill refreshed. Second, she genuinely preferred not fighting Chizhou. Her primary mission remained retrieving the frozen pear tree. If negotiations worked, that would be ideal. Meanwhile, outside the Great Snow Barrier, Lao Yu kept detonating bombs against the thick, icy snow walls. So this was why the captain told me to stay back. Just in case. The captain really thinks of everything. I need to break this barrier fast and rescue them. As Lao Yu bombarded the snow walls, from another direction came a purple leech crawling rapidly. It plunged straight into the frigid snow barrier as if it weren't there. The Great Snow Barrier couldn't hinder it. The leech passed through effortlessly. Its target, Chizhou, lay within that very barrier. Chapter 296, The Bizarre Leech. Mokizu found herself in a passive position. First, she didn't know the exact location of the pear tree. Was it on their persons, had it been moved elsewhere, or perhaps already traded beyond this world? Second, although these two were trapped within the Great Snow Barrier, the containment was merely superficial. The freezing temperatures and blizzard conditions seemed to have no effect on them. Especially the newcomer. He appeared completely unaffected by the cold or the visual obstruction of the snowstorm. When had such powerful individuals emerged? She had no recollection of them. That unseen goblin also remained a troubling unknown variable. Soon, her substitution skill would be ready. Just as Mokizu prepared to speak and continue conversing with Chizhou, she suddenly sensed something entering from outside. What was that? Something had infiltrated the Great Snow Barrier without damaging it? The goblin? Unlike Chizhou with his overpowered fate insight detection ability, Mokizu only had the advantage of unobstructed vision within her own snow barrier. The intruder turned out to be a purple leech. It wriggled rapidly toward Chizhou. But within a 100-meter radius, nothing escaped Chizhou's perception. With fate insight constantly active, he had no blind spots. The moment the leech entered this range, Chizhou detected it. Seeing the leech charging directly at him, Chizhou's hair stood on end. Why did he feel such danger? An inexplicable intuition warned him. He must not let this thing touch him. He immediately swung his niche iron blade. Flames trailed the blade, vaporizing snowflakes into white mist wherever it passed. Chizhou launched a proactive strike, the fiery longsword descending with overwhelming force. The blade sliced the leech cleanly in two. Yet it didn't die. Instead dividing into two leeches that continued charging at him. Something was wrong. The resistance felt unnatural. Words of power, zero time. The leeches flying toward Chizhou froze midair as if paused. Not just them. Even the falling snowflakes hung motionless. Time stood still, with only Chizhou remaining mobile. Chizhou twisted his blade, changing from a vertical slash to a horizontal sweep. As the blade's tip grazed one leech, the creature spontaneously split at the moment of contact. Despite the rapid division, Chizhou, also operating under zero time, clearly saw what happened. So that's why the first strike felt off. I didn't actually cut anything, yet it split anyway. He tried again. Another slash. Again, the leech divided to evade, though each division reduced its size. 8 leeches now, each 1/8 the original mass. What kind of monstrosity was this? Chizhou frowned as fiery currents appeared at the corners of his mouth. Flame breathing, fourth form, blooming flame undulation. Chizhou unleashed a spiraling flame slash centered on himself. Blazing fire enveloped all 8 charging leeches. If slashing didn't work, maybe burning would. The leeches showed no fear, passing unscathed through the roaring flames that surrounded Chizhou. This made his scalp tingle. Fireproof too? Then how about this? Chizhou realized conventional attacks, even flame-breathing techniques, were ineffective. He produced a black candle with a reverse grip and blew forcefully at the leeches. The black torch. A consumable item obtained yesterday from a 7th-level chest that released wide-range black flames which wouldn't extinguish until their targets were completely consumed. Whoosh! Black fire engulfed the leeches. After confirming each leech was covered, Chizhou twisted away to retreat. As zero time deactivated, the leeches pounced on empty air. Now coated in black flames, they fell to the ground. Unlike normal fire, these black flames didn't burn vigorously but rather clung like a viscous oil film. No amount of frantic writhing could extinguish them. Strangely, the fire only burned the leech, igniting nothing else. Perhaps realizing division made them more vulnerable, the leeches merged back into one original-sized creature. Ignoring the clinging black fire, it charged Chizhou again. Damn it, still alive? While dodging, Chizhou shouted at his surroundings, "Fine. You leave me no choice. No apology, just sneak attacks? Call off your damn bug or forget about ever seeing that frozen pear tree." Bug? What bug? Mokizu focused her vision. A leech wreathed in black fire was relentlessly pursuing Chizhou. So this was what invaded my barrier? A leech? Not his goblin accomplice after all. Wait. This could still be an elaborate act to lure me out. No rush, observe further. You think I'd use something that ugly? Hearing Mokizu's words, Chizhou felt exasperated. Then why is this leech only targeting me? Explain that. How should I know? Definitely not my doing. Hey. Even if it's not your fault, help out here. If I die, you'll never get that pear tree. Mokizu froze at this. Using the pear tree against her again. Annoyingly, it worked perfectly. Help me kill it and return my tree. Less talking, more helping. Run toward me. Mokizu cancelled her snow form, hands forming an intricate seal. Her ice blue eyes glowed faintly as she exhaled an arctic gale, great frost gale. A swirling vortex of icy blue air rushed toward Chizhou. Understanding immediately, Chizhou activated zero time at the last moment, dodging sideways with accelerated speed. The pursuing leech, unable to react in time, plowed directly into the freezing wind. Continual gusts layered frost across its body, transforming it into an exquisite insect-eyes sculpture. Chizhou stared in shock. Just like that? It even froze the black flames. What kind of skill was this? He'd felt the terrifying cold from 3 meters away. Had that hit him, his fate wouldn't have been better than the leech's. Not that the attack could have landed. Chizhou's fate insight provided complete 360-degree detection. Coupled with 0 times hyperspeed, he could evade nearly all small area non-targeted skills. Only continent-spanning attacks like nuclear bombardment might catch him. Seeing the frozen leech, Chizhou exhaled in relief. Lacking control or magic-type skills was currently his weakness.